Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, OP has a crazy entitled HOA Karen as a neighbor and she constantly intrudes on his property. She invites herself into his property and calls the police when she sees him naked in his own home. She wants OP arrested immediately. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. I have a neighbor that I have no idea what crawled up her ass, but she is the worst kind of person that I've ever met. I live in a very small town that sadly has an HOA that my neighbor is on the board of and thinks it makes her some kind of royalty. Now, I have no idea how HOA fines work and if board members get or steal a cut of it. I say that because my neighbor, who I will call Karen, decided that she was always trying to get me fined for something or another. Keeping garbage cans out too long, parking an inch too far from the curb, a dead patch of grass, and anything else you can think of. Another thing that is important to note is when you live in a small town with basically no crime, you don't always lock your doors. It's not uncommon and sometimes can be useful. I have kind of an open door policy for my friends and like to think of my house as a little bit of a safe haven. They can come in to cool off if they were in a fight with somebody or even just a change of scenery. I've had friends stop by to do things like use my oven when they were trying to make a big family dinner or something. If I am out, they even know where I hide my key and the system works fine. That was until one day when I was taking a romantic bath with my wife and heard somebody walk into my house. I assumed it was just one of my friends, but I heard a lot of rummaging going around. It just did not sound right, and then I heard a voice that I knew did not belong to one of my friends saying, "Damn it," and interesting. I thought I might have been getting robbed and like an idiot without a clue, just froze. Then the bathroom door opened and I jumped up with fight or flight finally kicking in. What I saw was not a robber, but instead Karen herself. We were both yelling at the same time for very different reasons. My wife was horrified while I was beyond angry and went from yelling in general to yelling at her. Me, what the hell are you doing in my house? Get out of here right now. Karen, assault! This is sexual assault! It took a while of back and forth to get both sides of what happened, so I'll try and sum it up for you as briefly as I can. Karen had run out of toilet paper and decided that the obvious thing to do would be to come into my house and see if she could find any. She was claiming it was normal for the HOA and she saw people coming into my house all the time, so if it was not okay for her, then it was considered discrimination. And yes, by the way, we are all white. Of course not, that was not valid in the slightest and I wanted her out of my house. Clearly, when I got out of the tub, I was naked, well, because I just took a bath. Despite it being in my own home and in my own tub, she was claiming that it was sexual harassment that I was exposing myself to her. She was shouting that I was getting HOA fines for being nude and that she was gonna try and get me arrested. She refused to leave my house and instead called 911. All the while, she was also pointing out things she found in my house that she was gonna send me fines on. These things were total crap and included having a dirty stove, not plastic covering my couch, and not giving guests easy access to toilet paper. The police then showed up and she started screaming about how I was naked. Me and the wife were now wrapped in towels only because we refused to leave the bathroom and go near Karen until they showed up. It was clear the officers were very confused about this call and trying to get things sorted out before they decided what they wanted to do about it. Police? So you came into her house and got naked? Me? Actually, this is my house. Karen walked in uninvited, went through all my stuff and then wanted to take my toilet paper. Only then to freak out when she saw that I was naked. Police? Ma'am, we cannot stop him from being naked in his own bathroom. Karen, he didn't lock the door though. You're not allowed to expose yourself to other people and I want him arrested right now. Police? The only crime here is entering a home without permission of the owner and then not leaving when directly asked. So I will ask if somebody wants an arrest here today. Sir, do you want this woman arrested for unlawfully being in your house? Now, personally, I'm not the kind of person to want somebody arrested, but she was the one threatening me the entire time. She ruined my date night and made me feel violated because she not only went through my private belongings, but she saw me naked, which I'm not happy with either. I said yes, and Karen was taken out of my house in handcuffs. I heard her telling the police that she did nothing wrong, and since she was basically an officer of the HOA, she didn't need permission to go into anybody's house. The idiot even admitted to doing it before when people were not home because that is what neighbors are meant to do. I don't know if anybody tried walking into her house, she would have thrown a huge fit about it, 100% guaranteed. The rest of the HOA board could not handle the backlash of what she did, and we got a letter from them in the mail that they sent out to everybody. They were talking vaguely about a new board seat opening up and an election for it set to take place. Then an article about the dangers of leaving your doors open and urging everybody to lock your doors and for people to also not walk into somebody else's house without knocking. It was written like they were trying to teach manners to 5-year-olds, but I get that they were covering their asses. I've not really felt comfortable going back to how I used to do things, so instead I came up with a new solution. I just copied my house key and gave it to all the friends that commonly came over. Even with the vagueness of the letter, it was clear that Karen was the one who did things and was shamed by the entire neighborhood. Obviously, she did not end up in jail but got a record and needed to do community service. Sadly, but not really, the community wanted nothing to do with her. Her house was up for sale a week later and she was gone to never be seen again. I've heard of some crazy HOA Karens before, but never one that walked into your house and called the police on you for being nude. And you know guys, I was just thinking, if something like that would happen to me, how would I react? Because actually similar to OP, some of the neighbors here in the neighborhood, they always leave their door open. And sometimes they even encourage neighbors to come in when they are not there to, I don't know, drop off a package or something or let the dog in. But I simply cannot imagine even walking into somebody's bathroom uninvited and unannounced. That would be so embarrassing, I would probably die on the spot. Either way, if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like the video, because that would help me tremendously. The next one is titled, I Will Never Drive Your Car. So I, 25 female, and my husband, 26 male, bought a brand new car 5 years ago. It was for my husband, but I contributed half of the funds for it, and we are joint owners. On the day we picked it up from the dealership, my husband was so excited. I asked if I could drive it, and he said no. At the time, I just figured it was because he was too excited to have a car that was only his, so I did not think too much of it. That afternoon, we went to my sister's house to show her and my brother-in-law the car. We pulled up and they were saying how nice it was and that it must drive like a dream. My sister meanwhile sat in the driver's seat and put her hand out expectantly. My husband, without a second thought, placed the keys in her hand and did not say a word as she drove off with her partner in the front seat. I watched them pull away in shock and simply said, "Are you kidding me?" And I saw the moment of realization on my husband's face as he realized what he had just done. I was so pissed off and a little hurt that I wouldn't listen as he apologized and swore that he was just not thinking. I said it was fine if he was so against me driving the car, but no issues with anyone else driving it. I would just never drive it. 5 years later, and my petty self still has not let it go. He wants to have a couple drinks and have me drive his car home since we brought it out. Nope, sorry, I cannot drive your car. Wanna go on an interstate trip and share the driving? We better take my car since I cannot drive yours. My husband has just accepted this at this point, and it's more of an inside joke between us. But it recently came up again because we were babysitting my nephew and I asked my husband if he could switch the car seat from his car to mine, and my sister suggested that I just take his car because it already had the seat. I said that would not work because I'm not allowed to drive his car. She said, "Oh my god, you're still not over that?" No, Sarah, apparently I am not. And yeah guys, I'm curious, in this petty revenge story, do you think that OP is taking the petty revenge too far? I mean, 5 years is a long time. But anyway, let us know in the comments, and the next one is titled, Busting a Cheating Idiot. Many years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I was engaged to a guy who was, well, let's just say, not the best. He was a man-child who would refuse to talk about anything other than himself, video games and football. And by the way guys, just a little disclaimer here, I don't really like talking about myself, so I would dislike that as well, but talking about video games and football, I think that's pretty good. But anyway, I had severe self-confidence issues and stayed with him because I convinced myself that I was lucky to have one person love me. I never thought anyone else would. As part of this, we did everything he wanted but never what I wanted. He picked the movie, where we went on date night, where we went on vacation, etc. But at the very least, I was very close to his mother. We got along great, so much so that we often went out together. When my boyfriend proposed, she was thrilled that I was gonna become her daughter-in-law. Unfortunately, after we got engaged, he started acting weird. He got super secretive about his phone and suddenly started going out multiple nights a week to go out with the boys. Then he started cancelling our plans like date night to go out with the boys. When I tried to talk to him about it, asking if he had forgotten about our plans, he yelled at me and told me I was being controlling, so I backed off. At first I was in denial. I told myself that there was no way he would cheat. He had proposed he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. Why would somebody propose and then cheat? But eventually I broke down. While he was asleep, I got into his phone and Facebook account where I found sexts with multiple women, nudes from multiple women, and worst of all, recordings of him sleeping with other women. I was devastated, to say the least. I confronted him about it and he screamed at me. He told me I had invaded his privacy and it was controlling behavior like this that made him cheat. We then broke up. He moved back in with his mother and he made a big deal of how noble he was letting me keep our little flat. I paid for most of the deposit and most of the rent. The moment she heard about our breakup, his mother came rushing to make sure I was okay. I did not have the heart to tell her the real reason we broke up because I knew she would come down on him like a ton of bricks. My boyfriend's father had cheated on her, and so she always tried to instill in him and his siblings to never cheat. So I lied and told her that we had just drifted apart. I got a snotty message from my ex, clearly not happy that his mother went to me first instead of him. He accused me of being controlling, that I had manipulated his mother into rushing to me instead of him, just to spite him. He was her son, so why would she come and see me? I foolishly apologized and said she just turned up. A few weeks roll by, I am slinking into depression. Then I get a series of nasty texts from his mother, calling me really bad names and other choice names and how she cannot believe that I betrayed her precious boy. She tries calling but I don't answer the phone, terrified of what she'll say. It became clear that my ex had told her that we broke up because I cheated, probably in revenge for her coming to see me first instead of him. Fed up with this and devastated, I sent her a text explaining that that's not what happened. She confirmed her son had told her I cheated with multiple men. Why would her son lie? Why would I hurt him this way? Now her baby was scared for life. Or scarred, I always forget how to pronounce that, but either way, my anxiety melted away, leaving only anger. I still had all the evidence of his cheating backed up on my laptop. I sent it all to his mother, every text, every sext, every nude, every conversation with women confirming he had been out with them and stayed the night at theirs, etc., and every sex video he made. Also, I did send the videos separately warning her of their explicit content and censored the photos as best as I could. A few hours went by. Then she tried to call, but I was too scared to answer. Then she sent me a text apologizing for what she said and promised that she would deal with her, in her words, lying sack of crap of a son. A few days went by and then my phone blew up, but now it was my ex furious that I had told his mother. It turned out that not only was his mother mad at him, but so was most of his family. Even his sisters were mad at him. His grandma was furious with him. Even his dad, who remember cheated on his mom, said that he was disappointed in him. "How dare you tell her that?" he texted me. "Now she is saying I have to apologize to you. That's not fair." It was then that I had an epiphany. I knew I was done with him. I knew I deserved better. I calmly replied that he was the one who lied. I told his mother that we just drifted apart. He could have left it there, but he chose to be petty. He was the one who caused this. He was the one who cheated, and then I blocked his number. His mother invited me out one last time so we can enjoy a meal together. She apologized again for what she said and wished me the best. She then broke down all the good qualities she saw in me, all the positives, and told me what a good person I was. She told me to find somebody who was worthy of me. I burst out crying. It was a well-needed wake-up call that helped me start on the long road to gaining self-confidence. Her son, on the other hand, got the scolding of a lifetime from his mom, grandma, sisters, his father, and even his stepmom. Some of his friends even told him what a douche he was being. His mother made him pay her back for all the deposits she had paid for our wedding venues and vendors. The cherry on top, though, was whenever he made whiny posts online about how unfair it was or tried to say that it was my fault, his family and some of his friends chimed in, corrected him, and reminded him exactly why he was suffering in the first place. It's been over a decade since then. Now I am happily married to a wonderful, supportive man with 3 beautiful children. I still look back on that moment in life and laugh about how my ex could have avoided it all if he had just kept his mouth shut and not acted like a petulant child. And yeah, ripe stars, I am very happy for OP in this situation, that she came out on top of it, and I really only wish the worst to this guy. Absolutely the lowest of the low, that dude. Neighbor tried to mow me down with his tractor for blocking his driveway. Having a dispute over land with one of your neighbors can be one of the most pain-in-the-butt things you can deal with. The old guy who I shared an easement with went and lost his damn mind one day, I tell you. His name was Roy, and he almost killed me with a tractor after we started arguing over the stupid easement again. When I think back on things now, hindsight tells me maybe I should have handled it differently. Another part of me says that it doesn't matter and that the man is crazy anyways. This is my story about how my damn neighbor decided to chase me down in his tractor in a fit of rage. It started one day during the summer when my family had a large graduation party for my daughter Casey. We had known Roy for years and never had an issue with him, except once when he decided to get drunk and park his lawnmower in our ditch for days. Anyway, we live somewhat out in the country. We both have a lot of heavy machinery and equipment. I own a construction company and he used to own an old well-digging business before he retired. We share an easement at the end of the property near the road. We live in the front and his house is further down the driveway in the back. The two properties are separate, but like I said, we share the easement that is my driveway and goes back to his. This is what caused the majority of the issues. We had a lot of family and friends at Casey's graduation party. There were dozens of cars and they were parked up and down the driveway and in our yard. Pretty much anywhere they could park. So unfortunately, that meant that Roy's entrance and exit to and from his property was a little restricted that day. Which I genuinely felt bad about, but I didn't have a lot of choice and it was only for a few hours. Roy marched down to my house and approached me in my garage where we had several tables and food set up for our guests. I was socializing and spending time with them when I realized I had a dirty, scruffy and very annoyed looking Roy wanting to speak with me. I, of course, immediately knew what he was red in the face about. "Roy, I'm sorry, I know that we're in the way. I can have people move if you need them to." I also offered him a beer, which he angrily declined.
"Yeah, they need to move out of the drive."
He kept looking around at all the guests and cars, glaring and grumbling to himself. I realized that I don't see his big white Super Duty parked anywhere. "Do you need to leave? I don't see your truck." I didn't want to play musical cars if I didn't have to. Is he really just coming down here to give me crap during a party that will only happen once when he doesn't even need to go anywhere?
"Don't worry about where I'm going. I need you people to move out of the driveway now."
And with that, he turned on his heel and started walking back to his house. I did as he asked and had people move and barely making room for his big old truck to squeeze through about 30 minutes later. It seemed to be from here on out, Roy had an issue with us. Like I said, we had lived next to him for around 8 years and not really had any problems. For some reason though, this just set him off. About a week later, Roy approached my wife while she was in the front yard working in the flower beds. He was a little friendlier with her than he was with me the last time we talked, thankfully, but he still seemed angry. Roy told her that the day before our trash cans had blocked the driveway/easement, so he almost had to run them over to get through. She apologized and said that the wind must have blown them over into the driveway. As he was leaving, he turned and told her,
"Y'all cannot keep blocking the driveway. It's mine too."
She didn't want to get into it with him, so she just let it go until I got home. That same weekend, I had some work going on at my house in the kitchen and there were several people. So a few cars ended up on the easement again. I made sure they parked far enough over so that Roy could get out if he wanted to. This effort was in vain. Roy drove down in his tractor with the front loader on it and parked it in the easement dangerously close to the work trucks and started yelling at me. He could see me in my garage again, moving things from the kitchen to keep them clean and out of the way. I could hear Roy shouting at me from his tractor. He apparently wasn't going to get out of it. I walked out to him and he was obviously being nasty right away.
"This is BS, Tim. Now you've got trucks in the driveway. I told your damn wife to tell you to keep things out of the driveway."
"Roy, I'm gonna stop you right there." His nostrils flared and his face reddened, but I was not in the mood for his crap that day. I could see a meltdown was coming. This is not just a driveway, but it's an easement too, and I own it. So I'm going to let these workers park there because I don't have anywhere else for them to park. Plus, I made sure they were far enough over so you could get around if you...
I don't care if it is your easement, you cannot stop me from getting in and out.
He fumed and leaned forward so that he was over me. His attempt at intimidation was futile, as I'm not afraid of this man.
If I wanted to, I could take my tractor and move them out of the way.
He shifted the gear of his tractor, showing me that he must mean business or something. You better don't do anything, Roy. You need to leave now. He moved his tractor up, inching nearer to the work truck that was on the side of the easement. I stepped in front of his tractor, assuming that he won't do anything if I'm in the way. Well, I was wrong. He smiled and hit the gas. When I turned to get out of the way, he continued to follow me with the large piece of equipment. What are you doing? I shouted as he laughed and told me to
run,
which I unfortunately had to do in order to avoid being ran over by him. He literally chased me several yards on his tractor before I was able to get somewhere out of his reach. The workers that were at my house all witnessed the event. My wife was terrified. She actually thought that Roy might hurt me, which I started to believe after a minute of being chased down by him. She called the police, and when they arrived, we had several unbiased witnesses to account for the event. The tire marks were also evident in my heart, where I had to run to avoid him, and he followed me. I was apprehensive to say that he needed to be arrested, but my wife made that happen. She said that he crossed the line and needed to know that you cannot just chase people with tractors over a silly dispute with an easement. It is our easement after all. Roy argued that I had blocked his way in and out of his property, but the police could clearly see that there was more than enough space for him to leave in his truck if he wanted to. They took Roy to jail, where he was set on a bond. He had someone pay that so that he could get out of jail, and at the end of the court session a few weeks later was sentenced to several fines and even some community service. I don't think that the judge felt like Roy was a huge danger, which I also agree with. I think that paying some money and dealing with community service is appropriate enough for the whole thing. After all, I still don't think that he would actually have run me over. Roy did somewhat begrudgingly apologize to me a few months later. It took him a while, but now he keeps all of his complaints to himself.